And, welcome to the NLP.com Empowermentology webinar. I'm Dr. Matt James. I've already had a couple of you say this is your first time with us on a webinar. Well, welcome. I hope you guys are doing great. I know that there are so many new people. I'm looking at the attendee list. We already have just over 100 people who have begun to join us. And we had about 500 people, close to 600 people registering for this webinar. So I'm sure more are going to be joining in as we get started. For those of you that you're brand new to this, I'm going to be jumping right in. And the main reason is because I want to get to some content. I want to get to some things that will help you out on your path, that will assist you as an individual. And on our website, we have webinars, we have audio and video introducing who I am, talking about NLP.com, talking about what we do. And really these webinars are meant to be content-driven. They're meant to be for you guys, to give you information and for us to also begin to create a resource, a place where people can go to get this information. One of the webinars that I would like to do coming up real soon is a webinar on anchoring, and just jump right to a really powerful NLP concept called anchoring, learning how to be more in control of your state. And so let's see, first of all, bear with me here just a second. Let's test the GoToWebinar viewer. I have no idea if you guys can see me or if I'm supposed to put it over here. There we go, that's on my second screen. So I'm thinking you guys are able to see me now. And you know what? I have no idea how this looks. Chelsea, tell me, does that show up over there on your screen? Do I got to put that down on a small little corner? How is the video when we do this? And also, is there any lag? I mean, that's the big question that we want to have, because I want to make sure that these are high quality. And if GoToWebinar hasn't gotten the video portion of it handled yet, then we won't use it. I'm okay with us just using audio. You guys are kind of used to me using audio. And so Chelsea, are you able to see me right now? I'm sorry, I'm looking at my text. Okay, sweet. So I guess I got a viewer on my screen over here so I get to see how I look. Hey, how you guys doing? I'm Dr. Matt James. Nice to meet you. Welcome to my house. I'm home doing this webinar, so you'll have to forgive me. We live in Kona, and it's so beautiful here. Actually, it's kind of gray clouds today, a little bit cloudy sky, a little overcast, but that's okay. I love it because it keeps it nice and cool. And we still use coconuts. We still use coconuts to get the internet working between the islands here. So every once in a while, you never know. So we'll see how this goes. Chelsea, I got my phone right here. I'll keep it pointing towards me, so I'll be able to catch that in my peripheral, in my hakalau. And if anything comes up or if you think there's any lag, let me know. But if you're able to see me right now and you're able to see the screen, let's get going with our webinar. So welcome. Turning on the webinar there, you should be able to see that. We're talking about perception is projection today. We are talking about a concept that deals with how you perceive the world around you. And this is a really important one. This is a concept that if you were truly able to adopt it in your life, if you were as an individual able to fully incorporate this idea of perception is projection, of how we create our reality around us, you would have so much more control over your experience of life. To not just understand the concept, to begin to live it is literally, to me, one of the biggest differences between successful people and unsuccessful people. I've been in the field of NLP now for 31 years, and I know I look kind of young for those of you that this is your first time. I started at the age of 11, so you can do the math. I'm in my 40s now. I've been teaching for over 15 years, running our company for 15 years, just something that I grew up with. I lived this. I'm a doctor of psychology, and I did my residency at Indiana University and got to look at things like perceptions. And so my viewpoint isn't just NLP driven. It is more of a look at how we are hardwired to perceive things around us. In addition to that, I draw on more recent studies that talk about the power of perceptions. And in working with tens of thousands of people over the past 3 decades, since the 90s, I can tell you that when a person has control over how they perceive reality, they have more control over their own empowerment. They have more control over their happiness. And I've been there, by the way. I've been there when it didn't seem like that was possible. In different areas of my life, I have been face down on the path and just, I have no other way to say it, hating life. I've hit those places in fitness, in relationship. And, you know, to know this as a cornerstone, as a foundation, gives you a basis or a set of tools to begin to pick yourself back up again. So for those of you that are sitting there watching this webinar, listening to my voice, if it's at a time in your life where you really need to pick me up, I'm hoping I can do my best to give that to you. And if things are going great, then I want to give you a tool to make things even better. It's not going to fix everything in your life. It's not possible in a webinar to do that. I want to share with you some fundamental ideas, some principles that can begin to add to your toolbox. Because every little tool that you have, when you encounter something, then you're able to do something about it. You're able to move forward. The Hawaiian word imua, to be able to take that next step, to move forward. So first of all, for those of you that are new, up there on the screen, sorry, I see it over there on my secondary monitor. I also see it over here. You can make sure that you remain connected with us so that you can have any updates. Empowerment Partnership, we're on Facebook. That's my personal Facebook. You know, we're on Twitter too, and we're also on LinkedIn. But we do most of our social networking through Facebook. And also, if you haven't yet, join me on my blog, drmatt.com. I got to figure you are already on our mailing list at nlp.com. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been invited to this webinar. So I'm taking a guess that you're already on that database. drmatt.com is a separate database. That's my blog. And there we do articles. It's content-driven, no advertisements. It is a separate mail-out. So for those of you that haven't had an opportunity to visit the site, please do. It's a great site. We're about to upgrade it, too. We're about to update it. And I'm going to be doing more audio, more video blogs, and get as much information out there as we can. So sweet. Let's get started. So here's what we're covering today. What we are covering today is the mechanics of perception. We're going to cover how this concept dictates our reality. And in addition to that, we're going to learn how to create a greater level of control over your projections. For those of you, it's your first time on a webinar, I do my best to keep it to about an hour. And I spend the last 10, 15 minutes, if we can, answering questions that you have. I have Chelsea on with me. Chelsea's one of our team members at the Empowerment Partnership. She's going to do her best to answer any technical-driven questions, any questions that she's able to deal with. And then towards the end, I'll open up the little panel that I got over there and read through whatever questions are left over and do my best to get to as many of them as I can. So, where do we begin? Perception is projection is one of the major themes of neuro-linguistic programming. So what we have on this slide right here are the 4 major themes. You have perception is projection, this idea that what we carry inside dictates how we perceive the world around us. That yes, there is an external world. I can see the floor right over there. I can look outside and see the grass down there in my lawn. Those things are real, and yet you have a control over your perception of it. You have a control over your experience of that. We're going to talk about that. The other major themes are empowerment, being at cause, creating your reality, being in charge of your results. We're not talking about that one here. We're planning another webinar on that one. Webinar on mind-body, so how the mind and body are connected, and energy. That's the 3rd major theme that we talk about in our NLP and HUNA trainings. Responsibility for change is the 4th theme. You know, each of these are a standalone webinar, and what we're primarily focusing on right now is perception is projection. Perception is projection. Let's take it from a big picture perspective and talk a little bit about why we want to cover this. So, big picture. We have an external world around us. I can see a tree through the window over there. That's a tree. It's a jacaranda. It's a beautiful tree. There's purple flowers on it. Oh, my daughter, she's turning 7 this year. She loves that tree. If you've never seen a jacaranda, maybe I'll take a picture of it and put it up on my Facebook page. It's so beautiful. When the purple flowers come out, and if it's been raining and the tree has gotten a lot of nourishment, and I do my best to keep up with our yard and make sure all the plants are growing, when it's in full bloom and the sun hits it, it's just an amazing sight. I was driving home and I had my son and daughter in the car, and we're driving up this winding road, and I'm looking out and the sun is setting and it's shining through these trees, and this purple is just sparkling. I had to pull the car over and just take a moment, you know. I know they're only trees and it's only flowers. It was just this moment, and my daughter, she's looking out the window, and I remember she reached her hand forward from the back seat of the car, and I grabbed her hand and she said, "Oh, Daddy, that's so beautiful." I said, "Yeah, I know, isn't it? It's just so amazing to see those things. It's like when you see a rainbow." My son Ethan, he's turning 14 this year. He's a teenager. He had his headphones on. He's listening to his music. He kind of pulled one of the headphones off. He said, "When are we going home?" I looked at him. I smiled, and I said, "Buddy, look at that." He said, "Yeah, it's a tree." Now, you might sit there and go, "Well, that's the teenage years." Well, you know, that's the way kids are. But my wife, she doesn't like flowers too much. My wife doesn't like flowers at all. I think her exact instructions when we were friends before we got together, and they had no idea what NLP or any of this Huna stuff was. We began dating, and she took some trainings. I remember she kind of said, "You know, I'm learning this communication." She said, "I want to share something with you." She said, "Most women like flowers and appreciate flowers." She said, "Yeah, not me." She said, "I'm not a big fan of the flowers. I don't like them. They die. Not interested in them." Okay, so I took a step back and I went, well, I mean, in one way that simplifies things because, you know, now I don't have to kind of worry about, oh no, it's Valentine's Day, where am I going to get roses, especially if we're traveling around the world. But it complicated things a little bit for me because I sat there going, well, what am I going to get instead? And using NLP, I discovered, what does she like? What does she not like? Back to my whole point, though. A flower is a flower. There are flowers in our lives. There's flowers on the tree right down over there. There's flowers in my neighbor's yard over there that I can see. There's flowers out that window over there. Looking, I got a beautiful forest in the back of my house over here. I can see some yellow flowers beginning to blossom over there. Okay, so let's not argue. There is an external world. There are people around you. There are things that you encounter in life. What do you think about it, though? How do you feel about it? Do you like the flower? Do you dislike the flower? If you don't like the flower, do you think it changes your perception of flowers? Do you think it changes your experience when you encounter flowers? Do you have a different viewpoint? If you have negative emotions associated with flowers, what if, and my heart goes out to you, God forbid, what if something happened at an early age and you lost someone and your first experience of flowers was in a negative experience? What if every time you see those flowers, it triggers that negative experience? Is that going to change your perception of the world? You bet. Have you ever woken up in a bad mood? Does the world look different when you're in the bad mood? Have you ever woken up in a good mood and the world all of a sudden is a different place? What perception is projection is? It's a concept. It's a concept that you carry a certain level of responsibility in your experience of the world around you. Now, there are certain things that are external: the floor, the flowers, the airport, the road, the economy. Ooh, let's talk about business. This is a question that I ask every group that I get to teach, and we were just in Toronto and Miami. Great trainings. Had a fabulous time. I asked this question at the trainings. I said, how many of you know people that have lost money in a quote-unquote bad economy? Newspaper says bad economy. Hands go up. I've known people who've lost money in a bad economy. I said, okay, how many of you have known people that have lost money in a good economy? Things are going great. The newspaper says stocks up, housing's great, everything's wonderful. Hands go up. Yeah, I've known people who've lost money. I said, how many of you have known people who have made money in a good economy? Well, a lot of hands go up. Well, it's a good economy. It's easy to make money. It's easy to be successful. And then I said, well, how many people do you know that have made money in a bad economy? And everyone smiles and goes, well, of course your hand's going to go up with every answer. And then I simply ask, what's the difference between those people? What is the difference? The economy is real. I mean, you can't tell me that in 2007, 2008, that the stock market did not go down. It did. My mother and my stepfather, they had plans for retirement. They were supposed to be done working, ready to move on, and their retirement was pretty much cut in half, their savings, their investments. And so you can't say to them that that experience wasn't real. It is a real experience. My question is, do you have a level of control that the external world is not controlling your internal experience, but rather your internal experience is creating your external world? That's perception is projection. The reason why it's so important is because in life, shift happens. We put that on the back of our t-shirts. We have these neat black t-shirts with these the Empowerment Partnership logos, and on the back in big white letters it says, shift happens. And I know other people have said that. I didn't come up with that phrase, but it's a really cute one. Your kids grow up. The economy changes. You get older. You encounter things in your life. Shift happens. So what's the difference between someone who can handle it and someone who can't? I think the main difference is what's going on inside. Now, we've talked about the external world. Let's talk about the internal for a moment. What about beliefs? What about values? What about your filters, how you filter the world around you? What about whether or not you think you're a lucky person or not? Does that change how you see the world around you? You bet. And with things that are totally in your mind or in your emotions, those things you have 100% control over. You can't change the fact that that jacaranda is going to bloom. You can change the fact whether you like it or not. However, when it comes to a belief, you have 100% control. That's entirely in your head. That is your reality. And so what I want to share with you are some details on perception as projection, give you an opportunity to watch something to help kind of hammer this home so that you truly appreciate it, give you some tips and some pointers, and then wrap up the webinar with whatever questions you have. So first thing, call it the comfort zone. Take a look at this. What you have up here on the slide, I don't know where to point to because I don't know. You know what's really weird? I have no idea what you guys are seeing. When I'm teaching, I can turn and go, okay, look at the slide over here, but I don't have that ability. So look at the screen wherever it is around me. And it says the comfort zone. You got quality of life and you have over time. On the top here, you have really good. On the bottom, you have what you would perceive to be really bad. So you have really good and really bad. Some people experience life like this. You got the gray zone in the middle. Pardon me. The gray zone in the middle is kind of like where things aren't too bad, things aren't too good, everything's going meh, but it's not really doing anything. And for most people, life kind of looks like this. You go through life, things are kind of going up and down in the gray zone. Every once in a while, you might encounter something really bad. What would be an example of bad? I was in Miami. I almost completely lost my voice. First time. I've been teaching for over 15 years. Never happened. Knock on wood. Hopefully it's the only time. So quick question. Was that bad? For those of you who have done NLP, I know you can reframe it. I know you can think of different things. From a physiological standpoint, though, that wasn't a positive experience for me. But sometimes things go really good. I've ran trainings where it's like, wow, physically I'm kicking butt. I'm taking names. And then you got the gray zone. The interesting thing is that a lot of people tend to look for things, how to fix my life, to empower it, to change things when it's really bad over there, when things aren't going good. What I want to propose to you is that whether or not you're in that middle area where it's kind of like, meh, things are okay, and or it's going really good, or things are going really bad, this concept still applies. And what this concept will help you to do is kind of kick it up a notch a little bit. Take that energy and that empowerment up to a higher level. Get you out of that gray zone. You don't want to live in the gray zone. The gray zone is for people who are settling. The gray zone is for people who are, no judgment, people who are not pushing themselves to greater levels of excellence. And that's okay. I've met people for whom that's fabulous. Things are great where they are, and they're happy with it. Things aren't too bad. Things aren't too good. That's fantastic. I think you guys taking time out of your day, out of your life, if you're on the West Coast, it's nighttime. If you're on the East Coast, it's even later. My goodness, if you're joining from Europe, my hand goes out to you. I just thank you for being here. You guys are taking time out, so I know you want to kick it up a notch. So let's get going. One of the major definitions of NLP, and this helps you get out of the gray zone, is the realization that the words we use do not describe our reality or the world we live in, but rather they create it. This is the concept of perception as projection. Here's an example. How many of you ever said the following? I wouldn't want to say I'm bored at this party. I wouldn't want to say, and then you fill in a blank. You know, I wouldn't say that this is a boring party to be at, but, quick question, what does that leave you thinking? As the listener, have you ever heard someone say to you, I wouldn't want to say this, or I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that person over there is blah, blah, blah. But what does that impression leave you with in your mind? It leaves you with a shifted perception. You literally sit there and you go, okay, this reality that I have around me is now changed. I remember I was going to a party. I was with a friend. This is back when I was in my 20s. And that party, this is something totally inconsequential. It's like just out of the blue, just random. And I'm thinking, I'm going to go there. I'm going to have a good time. And he said, you know, this party, I'm not going to say it's going to be boring, but there's a group of people there. And then he starts filling in the blank. And I'm sitting there going, boring. Why would the party be boring? You know, I'm not going to this party because I'm thinking about being bored. It's a dinner occasion. We're getting together with friends. In fact, you know, why would you think it's boring? But all of a sudden I got there and I started looking around. And I'm going, what? Those people over there are just, they're sitting around doing nothing. God, does that guy look bored? I think that guy looks bored over there. All of a sudden your viewpoint has totally changed. It's that idea that our words, the words that come out of our mouth, they create our reality. They begin to dictate how we see things. Another example, I started off a training. I was in my early 30s, and it was a HUNA weekend. I think it was the first one I had ever taught. I was so excited. That was how I felt. That was my own feeling. I was excited. I was like, we're going to get going. We're going to, oh, this is going to be amazing. I was so fired up. I started teaching. I mean, I got sweat pouring down my back. I'm just, everything's just flowing. The energy is just flying out. We get done. We're about an hour and a half in. It's time for our lunch break. I say, okay, everyone, we're going to take a quick lunch break. We're going to come back. We're going to get going. This lady comes up to me and she goes, you are so passionate. She said, the energy coming out of your heart, she said, it's just amazing. You are so passionate. You are so fired up. She said, I have never seen a presenter this passionate about what they are talking about. She said, I can feel it. I'm not even in the front row. I'm in the back row. And as she's talking to me, this other person comes up. And he goes, it's a guy. And he goes, I just had a really bad flight coming in here. I flew in and I got searched at the airport. He said, you're really coming off a little bit aggressive. He said, you really kind of, this is a HUNA weekend. I've read a little bit about it. I thought you'd be a little bit more mellow. And she turns to him and says, what do you mean aggressive? And he said, well, he's really like, pumped up. And she said, I know, but it's coming from his heart. He says, I don't even know if this guy has it. They start arguing using these two labels. Dr. Matt's passionate. Dr. Matt is aggressive. By the way, in my mind, I felt excited. But this individual, the one that thought I was aggressive and the one that thought I was passionate, they start arguing with each other over who I am. See, how perception as projection works is really simple. You only see a little bit of what's going on around you. It is filtered through certain things, which we'll get to in a moment. When it's filtered through this, it ends up in your mind as an object. That object becomes what you think is reality. That object that you carry in your mind is what you believe you are perceiving. You see, I had this person email me, and if you're on the webinar, thank you so much for the early question. I got this question, and it said NLP is about linguistics. And perception is projection. It means it equals it. And he said, but that's not precise with linguistics. Technically speaking, NLP isn't a study of linguistics. It's a study of how language affects the nervous system. And from an NLP perspective, who cares if I'm passionate, aggressive? Who cares if I'm excited? Do you, the listener, have control over your reality? Are you looking for the negative? Are you looking for the positive? There was a study done. I put some notes over here in my slides just so I can make sure I quote the study correctly. And Chelsea, please remind me, I need to write a blog on this. I double-checked on our website, and I haven't yet gotten this blog up. It is absolutely amazing. There was an individual who did a 10-year study following 400 people who were put into two separate groups. One group, people who believe they're lucky, and another group, people who believe they are unlucky. And here's the deal. The lucky people have a totally different perception over life. How they perceive positive things, how they perceive negative things, in comparison to the people who believe they are unlucky. An unlucky person who was in the unlucky group, he got into a car accident. And it was talked about in the study. So this guy gets into a car accident, and as he's doing this self-reporting, he's like, you see, I got into a car accident. I'm an unlucky person. Here's all the negative things that have happened in my life. Lucky person in the lucky group got into a car accident, and they're like, you see how lucky I am? Car accident. I walked away. Not a scratch. Neither of them had a scratch. One of them perceiving the accident in one way, another one perceiving it in a different way. I've gotten to do criminal profiling classes as a doctor of psychology, and you talk to police officers. You see an accident, two different witnesses, two different reports of what occurred in that accident. And they believe, because it's up in their mind, that that external is reality. In this study of lucky people, the guy who's running the study decides in a magazine he's going to have the people in the study count how many pictures are in the magazine. And I think there were 43 pictures. The lucky people were able to go through the magazine and within a matter of seconds get the number correct. The unlucky people would take a long time to go through there. The lucky people on page 2 or 3 read in, I think it was 20-point font or 2-inch font this big. In these big bold letters, it says, there are 43 pictures in this magazine. The lucky people saw it. The unlucky people, the bulk of them, did not see it. They were so focused on counting the pictures that they did not see that print in the paper. Halfway through, the guy who was doing the research wrote in the same size letters, this big, look up at the person administering this test and say you read this, and you'll be handed $250. The unlucky people didn't see it. He concluded that lucky people create their own fortune. And I wrote this down here. He said they create it by 4 basic principles. They are skilled at creating and noticing change opportunities or chance opportunities. So people who believe in their heart that they are lucky, he found that they create and notice chance opportunities. He cites a person who was walking down the street of New York who owned these stores that he wanted to sell, and someone across the street yells, Mr. Buffett, is that you, Warren Buffett? And he's looking around. Warren Buffett happened to be right near him. Why is it that he heard that? He believed he was a lucky person. Ended up selling his stores to Warren Buffett, retired. Number 1, they are skilled at creating and noticing chance opportunities. Number 2, make lucky decisions by listening to their intuition. Oh, I did a fabulous webinar on trusting your gut. Email our office. Ask them, how can I get a hold of this webinar about trusting my gut? Or maybe I've written a couple of blog articles about it. I know I've gotten this information out there. They're able to listen to their intuition. Number 3, they create self-fulfilling prophecies via positive expectations. He found in a 10-year study that people who believe they are lucky create positive self-fulfilling prophecies. Unlucky people don't. And the 4th thing is they adopt a resilient attitude that transforms bad luck into good. So a person who believes they're lucky, they'll, I don't know, lose money on the stock market and go, wow, I gained a valuable lesson. That will never happen again. An unlucky person, oh, that's awful. I'll never do that again. A person who believes they're unlucky will be exercising and hurt themselves and see it as a sign, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Whereas a lucky person will shift their thinking about it. It's like in their mind they have a different way of perceiving things. How we do this is really simple. I want to give you big picture how we do it. I want to give you some tips to help you out. And in addition to that, give you guys a free gift to kind of help you out with your goal setting to begin to attract these experiences to you. I'll also do my best to get that blog up really soon on drmatt.com so you guys can read this study. So this comes, if you look on the screen, oh, Chelsea sent me a text message of what it looks like. Ah, so that's what it looks like. If I point to my left, take a look at that. You guys should be able to see it. So one of the NLP presuppositions is the map is not the territory. What that means is if you're looking at a map, that does not accurately represent how the world is around you. It's a fancy way of saying perception is projection. Well, this comes from Alfred Korzybski, and the book is called Science and Sanity. It came out in 1933. So this is studied in psychology, and it goes like this. You have an external experience. You have an external experience outside you, a tree, an automobile accident, the stock market, encountering a loved one. That external experience, you don't actually experience, Alfred Korzybski said. You don't experience it. That external experience becomes an object of experience, which is entirely in your mind. The letters IR stand for internal representation. It's what NLP calls a picture in your head. So let's keep it really simple. What you see outside, what you hear, what you feel is filtered through your senses, and it becomes an internal representation. Now you might go, oh, this is just NLP. No. Cognitive psychology talks about this. In the book Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, great book. I'm not going to spell the guy's name. Write down Flow, F-L-O-W. You can look up the book. In the book Flow, he says we are bombarded by 2 million bits of information per second. Every second, 2 million bits of information bombarding our nervous system. We get about 126, 192. I've seen new reports. But who cares if it's 126? Who cares if it's 192? I read a recent book that says we're bombarded by 40 million bits, but we only get 1,000. Hold on, take a step back. 2 million, you're left with about 100 or so. 2 million bits of information, and you miss most of everything. Why? Because you delete, you distort, you generalize. So you're not actually experiencing the world around you. What you have in your mind is an object of that reality that is filtered by everything in the unconscious. Are you happy? Are you sad? What do you think about flowers? What is your overall view of the economy? Do you like men? Do you like women? Do you not like men or women? And you might think that's out there. Oh, am I too young? Me, Dr. Matt. I was teaching in my 20s, and a person came up to me and said, I think you're too young to be teaching this. Do you think that belief shifted their reality of what occurred? Of course it did. Totally changes that person's reality. So it's filtered through all of that. And then what Alfred Korzybski says is we begin to label these experiences with labels, words. Oh, I had a great time. Oh, I had a bad time. Oh, this happened, that happened. And every label, he said, takes us farther and farther away from the actual experience or the object of experience. There are people on this webinar who have recently attended our Toronto practitioner or our Miami practitioner training. And if you ask one of them, how was the training? They might in one sentence go, I had an amazing time. That's one sentence to describe 4 days. That's a label. So that's a label, label, label. You might say, well, what did you experience there? And they will start talking. What they're talking about is their own internal representation, because they have filtered out everything else that's going on. It works like this. This is called the NLP Model of Communication. Let's get down into some detail now. Let's go through some content. Then we'll get into what to do with this stuff. So, waiting for a keynote. There's the slide. So that's you. That's you right over there. And we have external events that occur. So those events can be winning the lottery, the first kiss, negative experiences, September 11th attacks. That information comes through our neurology, through our 5 senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. That's sight, sound, feelings, smells, and taste. It comes in at about 2 million bits per second, quoting the book Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. You guys go check out the book. That's too much information for us to deal with. So we delete information. We literally just delete it. We distort information. That is, alter our viewpoint. So if you like flowers, you see the tree, the tree takes on a different meaning. You don't like flowers, you look at the tree takes on a different meaning. We also make generalizations, like, oh wow, look at those flowers, rather than seeing the individual flower. These three things, deletions, distortions, and generalizations, create our internal representation. That's the thing in our mind. It says 7 plus or minus 2 chunks. That's referencing George Miller's paper. His paper George Miller is one of the founding members of cognitive psychology. He wrote a paper called The Magic Number 7 plus or minus 2. And what he said is, in any given moment, we can only focus in on about 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information. So what does that mean? Maybe I'm focusing on talking to you guys. I got my phone over here in case Chelsea text messages you. I got my bottle of water. I take a sip. That's 3. It's getting a little bit warm in here, but I don't want the wind to blow in. So that's 4. 5. I don't know. That's 4. Maybe I'm only focusing on 4. All these other things I'm totally missing. All these other things I'm not experiencing that are going around in my environment. A bird just flew by. Okay, now I noticed that. That's a 5th one. Anyway, back to my point. You're only left with about 7. You lose all this other information. So it's another way of looking at the 2 million bits. We have that plus our state. That's our emotions. And then we have how we hold our physiology. Are we in a positive physiology or a negative physiology? All 3 of these things are coupled together. They're connected. They're intertwined. These things together create our behaviors. So those behaviors could be winning the lottery, you invest money. The first kiss, you start to dance afterwards. September 11th attack, bonding. You know, the people in New York, my parents, they went to school in New York. That's where they met. They met at Syracuse University. And my mom was in tears when she would have watched the people walking around the streets in New York, and she said, look at them. Look how they're bonding together. She saw some positive aspects that are going on there. These things create our reality around us. Another way of looking at it, and this is the NLP Model of Communication right out of our textbook, you've got 2 million bits coming in. You're only left with that internal representation, about 126 bits. It's filtered through all of these other things that you see on the slide right there. It's filtered through time, space, matter, energy, language, memories, decisions, meta-programs, values, beliefs, attitudes. You know, the deepest one is values. Values are so big in determining what we do with our time or how we evaluate the time that we've spent. A person who has integrity as their #1 value in business. A person who sits there and goes, what's most important to me is running in a business with integrity. They're going to see things in a different way in comparison to someone who is like, it's a cash and grab industry. Donald Trump, a model of success. And yet when he gets up on stage at Tony Robbins trainings and says, here's my values, his top values are very different than someone else who's out there, let's say, working for a company that wants to make a difference on the planet and, you know, help put new trees out in the forest. And I'm not judging. I'm not here to judge, because I've used Donald Trump as a positive, and I can use people who are out there doing things like planting trees as a negative. I can look at it in 2 different ways. I'm saying it's 2 different sets of values. Language is another big one. I use that as an example all the time. People who speak a different language quite often have the ability to have a shift in their perception. A guy who used to run a company, he said, he goes, I would begin to think in Italian and the world would look like a better place. I want to have you guys watch a video. Chelsea, can we send the link out? I'm going to shut down my slides for a second here, so I want to see. Let's see, would it be possible? I'm going to do something different. I wanted to send the video out to you guys, but the problem is running the video through GoToWebinar, it just really wasn't working. Chelsea and I were testing it ahead of time. So Chelsea, is it possible to send that link out to everyone? I just want to take a couple minutes. Okay, there we go. You can see the link. I'm going to click on it with you guys. If you click on that link that Chelsea just sent you, it'll take you to a YouTube video. It's going to take about 1 minute and 42 seconds. I'm going to close it so it doesn't begin to make noise in your guys' speaker. There we go. So go ahead and click that link. Hopefully you have a decent internet connection. And what I want you to do is turn up the volume and watch this video. It's going to take about 2 minutes. I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to do this. We only got 15 minutes left in the webinar. I got to get going. 2 minutes to do this. And I'm starting the timer now. Hopefully you guys have clicked on the link. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to take some time to look at the questions. For those of you that are watching this on a replay, Chelsea, we're going to have to figure out a way to get them the link. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting here staring at me going, I don't have the link. Let me open up the questions and make sure you guys are able to get the link. Going through the questions. Okay, Mary just posted no link. Chelsea, we got over 100 people on this, and 2 people said they don't have the link. Chelsea, are you able to repost the link again? Chelsea just posted in the chat the link. There it is. You should have just seen it pop up again. Hopefully you guys are able to see this. Okay, that's all right if you can't click because you're on your iPhone. We'll make sure we send it over to you, Annie. Sorry about that. Good you're on your iPhone. I've watched some GoToWebinars on my iPhone too. It's really convenient to do this. I'm going to give you guys 1 more minute to finish it up. Good job, Rico. Rico just said, I see it. Man, we have over 100 people on this webinar. You're welcome, Annie. Really nice you guys to be here. Thank you very much. Okay, that was about 2 minutes. This is a video that I show in my trainings all the time. It's the basketball video. It's a basketball video. So these people in the video are bouncing the basketball. And this researcher, if you want to go find it out, follow the link. That's the guy. This is the guy that made the video. Look at some of the other videos. But do me a favor for a moment. Let's wrap up the webinar. Come back to the webinar. You can go watch YouTube later on. So close your browser. Hopefully you guys got to take a look at it. If you didn't get to see the link, we'll have Chelsea send out an email after the fact. You guys can go watch the video. It's a new video. For those of you, because Pilar, you were at what training were you at? You were in the Los Angeles. We were in Manhattan Beach. Nice to see you here. I know I'm going to see you at MasterPrac, I think, pretty soon. So we'll get you the link. For those of you who didn't get a copy of the link, we'll have Chelsea send out an email so you guys can see it. I'm not going to ruin the video because it's a new video, one that you guys didn't see at the practitioner. Basically, the video works like this. There's 2 groups of people, white shirts, black shirts. The people with the white shirts are bouncing the basketball. People get so focused in on watching those people with the white shirts that they delete the people with the black shirts. And in the middle of the video, a gorilla walks out, stands in a circle, beats its chest, and walks out the other side. 60 to 70% of the people in an audience with very little discussion ahead of time will not see the gorilla. This guy has other videos up on YouTube, and you can go to his website. You can read his book, and it has to do with perceptions. In this new video, other things happen that like 60 or 70% of the people don't see it. People who've already seen the video, they're looking for the gorilla, they miss other things. The whole point of this video is with this 2 million bits of information going on. Let me get my slides back up here. With 2 million bits of information going on, we are only left with this experience. With this experience that we have, and that experience in our head, that's what we think is reality. I mean, look, before I had this video, I would have to explain over and over again. Laura Bryant, thank you so much for being on this. That was amazing, wasn't it? Show it to your friends. It's a great party trick. It is. There's an older video on there where the other things don't change. If they haven't seen it, show them that one first, and then show them this one. It's a great video. And you might sit there and go, no, I would see the gorilla. Oh, this guy has ran so many experiences to prove that you don't get everything going on around you. So what are we left with? What are we left with? And I want to begin to wrap this up. What are we left with? We're left with a verified, through research, through looking at our neurology, since the 1930s, and understanding that what we think is going on around us, this external world, is mostly occurring in our mind. That yes, there's a floor over there. Do you like the floor or do you dislike the floor? That's totally in your head. This is irrefutable now. Water is wet, the sky is blue, and the world that you perceive exists in your head. And therefore, what you think you are perceiving, you are actually projecting. That's why NLP calls it perception is projection. Because what NLP is attempting to explain is that what you hold in your mind becomes your reality. I hope you understand the importance of it. To me, this is one of the most important concepts that an individual could get. Because you walk into a situation, one of my co-trainers, Nicholas, great guy, he says when he's teaching NLP reframing an NLP technique is a way of changing your viewpoint about something so you can gain more control. How many of you have ever seen someone speed by you on the freeway and you got pissed off about it? I'm sorry, I'm used to teaching groups, I just put my hand up. How many of you have ever had that happen? Good. Oh God, I see hands up over here with GoToWebinar. You guys can put your hands up. That's cute, I like that. Anyway, so you see this car go by and you're like, God bless it, that speeder. Well, I'm sorry, when my wife called me, when was this, 7 years ago now, and said, oh honey, you better get home really quick after dropping off Ethan, my water just broke. I started passing people at a very high speed, and I bet you there were some people who were cursing my name. I'm not claiming that every speeder is rushing home to get to their pregnant wife, but Nicholas points something out. Nicholas points out something so beautiful with reframing. How many of you have ever let something like that derail your day? No, I'm not kidding. I had a guy who I used to work with. This is back in the 90s when I was in the office way more and helping out with sales. He comes into the office one morning, and he's pissed off. He's red in the face, and he goes, this person cut me off on the way, and he's grumbling. I don't know, okay. Sorry about that. That sucks. Yeah, I hate that. We take our first break, and after the first break, working for a little while, he comes into my office. He says, I'm still pissed off that individual, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow, man, this guy's really angry. At lunchtime, he's like, I'm still grumpy. He's pounding on the desk. And this guy's ruined my day. On the way out the door that night, he goes, I'm going to go find that person and run them off. I'm sitting there going, really? The whole day? But look, here's the deal. I have known people that their whole day is blown because of it. I've had people say those exact words. Oh, this happened? My day is probably a wreck now. Heck, I've said those things. What does that do to the rest of your day? What does that do to the rest of your experience? You see that video that you watched with the gorilla. That's how reality is. You focus in on things being one way, you don't see anything else. It would be like visiting a foreign country. It would be like going to this beautiful location, and you walk into this old stadium, and you look around and you go, man, this place is run down. Look at this place. That field, it's not even regulation size. I mean, you can't sit here. The walls are crumbling. Someone should renovate. I mean, in the U.S., we don't have stadiums that are this ran down. What do they call this place again? Oh, it's called the Colosseum. I'm in Rome. And you're sitting there going, no one would ever look at the Colosseum that way. And yet I have people that come into the trainings, and they sit there and they go, yeah, I've gone on vacations looking for things to be bad, and it turns out that way. And that study on luck absolutely verifies it. So let's go through some tips. I want to summarize what we just covered, go through some tips, and answer some questions. So here we go. The first thing is you need to realize that there's a balance between what is outside and what is inside. There is a floor. There is a tree. There is an economy. What you carry inside controls how you experience things around you. One thing that you can do is begin to take back control over your projections. How can you do that? The way you do this, well, the easiest way, first of all, is to begin to let go of some baggage. Those of you that have been to our NLP training, you got to use some techniques on yourself. Anchoring. Anchoring is a fabulous one. If you're in a negative state, to be able to get into a positive, resourceful state, so easy. That's a way of doing it. Being able to get into rapport with another individual. Reframing. You look at a situation and you reframe it. Hey, you might not be right, but at least looking at things in a positive way is going to change your experience. Taking back control. The biggest way you can do this is to do some tools and techniques that will help to transform it. The second one is to begin to make a list of the things that when it happens outside that you get triggered inside. To become aware of these things, to have an awareness of it, begins to give you control. You need to learn to recognize when you don't have control. For those of you that have not had an opportunity to do our NLP training, that's the biggest tip that I can give you. You need to begin to look at, hear, and experience when you lose that control. When do you as an individual sit there and go, oh, when my kids do this, I'm just gone. Oh, I flip out. You know, Milton Erickson, one of my favorite reframes, MD, psychiatrist, did hypnosis. He was a person that Bandler and Grinder modeled to create NLP. A mother brought in her daughter and said, Dr. Erickson, you need to hypnotize her. She doesn't listen to me. She's unruly. She doesn't. And he looked at her and said, how neat that when she's an adult, she'll be a powerful woman and be able to stand up for herself. See, she was so focused in on her being a certain way right now. And he pointed out something really cool. These are qualities that in the future are going to be beneficial. Do I want my kids to listen to me? You bet. And I want to have control over my day. So my son asking me a crazy question, or my daughter wants a turtle. I went to the pet store and discovered that taking care of a turtle is a lot more difficult than taking care of a cat or a dog. Having to tell her, no, you can't have a turtle, having to set those boundaries, and yet encouraging her to care for an animal. We bought her some fish. She feeds them every day, teaching her responsibility. No, you can't have a turtle. It's not going to flip my story. She keeps asking. She wrote a whole story in school about not being able to have a turtle. I read the story. I gave her a big hug. I said, I'm so glad you're expressing yourself, rather than seeing it and going, Skylar, how many times have I told you no turtle? Do you let these external events trigger you or not? And if they do, find out why they trigger you. Why is it that it triggers you? What could you do instead? Look at what triggers you and what could you do instead. It's called a balance sheet. Write down on one side of a paper all these things that trigger you and change your perceptions. And with each of them, on the other side, write down what you could do instead. And once a day, tackle those things and change it. If there's something that triggers you on a regular basis, if you have the technique, do the technique. If you don't, what could you do instead, and begin to consciously practice that. The more you do that, it forms a habit and it creates repetition. That's the best thing that I can give you advice to do right now. And I'll do my best to get a blog up there on the research of this Lucky. I'll also cite the research so you can go read it. Hopefully that will inspire you. We'll do our best to get a webinar up there with anchoring. What I want to do is I want to just look through the questions. Let me open up the screen here. Got questions about audio. I got to skip through those. Here we go. So this is one of the first questions that I have. What can I speak to others to become more authentic? Andreas, is that how you pronounce your name? Please forgive me if I pronounced it wrong. Andreas, I think, is your name. Look, here's the deal. The Hawaiians had a concept that was called pono. Pono means to be right with yourself and right with others. And when you're pono, you're authentic. You're operating from your heart. I believe in being truthful to people, and you can be truthful in operating from your heart. The more control over your projections, the more you're able to control what's in your mind and how you see the reality around you, I think the more authentic you're able to be. So as you practice some of these tips, I hope that it'll help you become more authentic as an individual. Let me go through some of these other questions. Yeah, so Suzanne, no link. Sorry, we'll get that out to you as quickly as we can. Can't see the chat on your iPad. I know the GoToWebinar hasn't made that possible yet. Those of you that were on your iPads and whatnot, it's fantastic. Have seen you at your seminar. This is one that also changes the curtains. Yeah, it is, Rico, it is. This is a new one. This is a new one. I've also done that at the HUNA trainings. So if you've been to our HUNA trainings, all of you who said that you weren't able to get the link, we'll make sure that we send it to you. Oh, Evelyn, you said, please repeat what we think. I don't remember where I was saying that. Sorry, Evelyn. We'll send you the link for the webinar, then you'll be able to go through that. Okay, here's a question. Matt, when are you coming to New York City to do an NLP practitioner workshop? Oh, Annie, I would love to go to New York. I absolutely love New York. Thank you so much for asking. We went there for Thanksgiving vacation. We took the family there, saw some shows. Oh, what a beautiful place. I meet people that go to New York and they're like, what an ugly place. Oh, that's called perception is projection. That is perception is projection. You go to New York, they're like, look at the graffiti. Oh, look at these people. Oh, they talk so loud. Oh, they swear at each other. So what? A beautiful place. The snow on the ground. My kids loved it. Annie, I love you, and I'm probably not going to be doing a training in New York. Hotel venues in New York are wow, expensive. That's not a perception. The hotels charge a lot of money. We're in Toronto once a year, and we're going to be going to LA. And for we do a $97 practitioner. If you tack on flight and hotel and you flew in for it, you're still going to save way more than spending $3,000. It is a full-length practitioner training for only $97. It's totally worth it for you to be there. So, yeah, I'd love to go to New York. My kids would love, and let's see, I got to take the next question. Sorry, Annie. Carolyn, I remember being in about 4th grade and having an aha moment when I realized that the color I was looking at did not look the same color to everyone else. It was a total aha moment that not everyone sees things in the same way. I'm perceiving that this is the same thing. Carolyn, exactly right. Now, take that idea and put it to everything. Everything. When I meet someone and they go, I don't like NLP. Maybe I see NLP as green and they see it as blue. I don't argue with them. I go, oh, that's great. I'm a doctor of psychology. Some people, oh, psychology, that's all in your head. Yeah, I know. So is NLP. But back to my point, with perception is projection, that aha moment you get is that that world around you is in your mind and you have control over it. Really good job. What we think we perceive becomes our projection. Is that correct? Absolutely, Evelyn. Great job. Dr. Matt, can you leave the slides up a bit longer? Robert, sorry, buddy. Didn't see that question until now. I'll do my best to do that in the future. Let me take one more question, and then we're going to have to wrap up because it's already 5 o'clock, and I like to make sure I have integrity with time. Here we go. Laura, you got your question in there. I'm just running down the list. How do you act like yourself when you're not really sure who the real you is? That's a great way to end the webinar. I think I've done a different webinar on how to gain a little bit more connection with your purpose, who you are as an individual. I did an entire webinar on that. And what I would like you to do, Laura, if you would please, send an email to our office, drmatt@nlp.com. Let me get that slide up there. That's the email address right over there. drmatt@nlp.com. Send an email to us and ask if you can get a copy of that link. We'll get that out to you as quickly as you can. And that's a lifetime journey. What I'm teaching is about a lifetime. It's a lifetime journey to gain more control over your projections. Every year I teach this. Every year I do this, I get better and better at what I do. And what I want to do is I want to wrap up by giving you guys a gift. I know we've been going for an hour, and I want to make sure I stick with our time integrity. And I want to share with you guys a gift. This is for free. This is for you guys for being here. It's a downloadable MP3. It's called, it's an induction for goal setting. I know many of you have a goal. If you've already received this, hey, download it again or share this webinar with a friend and help us get that information out there. We could use some help. Download this free MP3. It's for goal setting. It's for you guys. It's our gift because I want to give back to you guys being here. What it will do is if you have a goal, if you have this, I want to go for this and create something in my life, this will help to attract the energies to you to help you change those projections, to help you gain more control over your projections, and to really help you move forward in your life and get more out of it. So here's the link. I already talked about our upcoming NLP Pracs. You know, I just wanted to keep it really simple, give you guys a downloadable link and also a link to our upcoming NLP practitioners. We have 3 coming up, May and June. In May, we're going to be in Los Angeles and Seattle, and then in June in Denver. We're going to be in Colorado. First time we've ever been in Colorado. So for those of you that are in the Rocky Mountain state in Colorado, go in there. So it'll be a great experience. So if you're interested at all, $97, an amazing low investment so that you're able to get a full practitioner training. If it's something that you'd be interested in, follow this link. You can connect up with us. NLP.com perception gift. NLP.com/perception gift. Chelsea also put the link up there. You can click on it. It's a free downloadable MP3. That's our gift to you. Go check out the other videos from that YouTube link that I gave you. I hope you have some fun with those videos. And I want to wrap up class by saying mahalo. Thank you very much for being here. And sorry I couldn't get to all the questions. I got to as many as I could. I'm going to scroll through it after I've turned off the video, see if there are any that could help prompt another blog post or something. And I look forward to speaking with you guys in the near future. Take care. Aloha. Ahui ho. Class dismissed. Love you all. Aloha.